Deleted Session, November 12, 1973. Now, good evening. I will start simply enough. As I told you, the reasons behind the body beliefs have largely vanished. You are left with beliefs about the body. These, denied the core beliefs that gave them birth, would naturally begin to weaken but could linger for some time, generally speaking, unless they were recognized as beliefs. So beliefs about Rupert's body on both of your parts, but of course primarily on Rupert's part, must be understood as beliefs that then cause physical experience. Some of these have already begun to vanish, but both of you to some extent project them into the future. Treat them as conditions in fact, and not as beliefs that cause conditions. You become hypnotized then, both of you, by the effects. Each physical breakthrough manages to dilute that picture some, but often in spite of Rupert's habits and to some extent your own. There is a brief session that I gave some while back that points this out clearly. Both of you believe quite effectively that he cannot perform in certain areas. Now, using the point of power as suggested, you can break out of that circle. I told you about the importance of imagination and the various characteristic methods that people have in utilizing suggestions through imagination. I mentioned also Rupert and dancing, and the way he utilized challenge there, a way that would not be characteristic for you. Now he is frightened to some extent of making the trip. Rob noted on vacation. Seth said, at the same time, he uses the challenge to activate his imagination constructively and to arouse his enthusiasm. Then, in his way, with his reactions, he tries to fire you with that enthusiasm, so hard-won, and meets, of course, with your own kind of reaction. Some of this has to do with the fact that both of you think in terms of absolutes, but often in different ways. Rupert feels free enough to go to Florida if he feels he does not have to face what he thinks of as your idea of absolute freedom, in which he is performing as normally as anyone else, or nearly so. If that is expected of him in line with both of your current beliefs in the body's poor performance, then he does not feel free to go at all. The fact that he plans a trip means to him that he is free to go, and that there are some gradations of freedom physically in which he can operate and use as a vehicle. Now, your idea that you are not going freely with freedom is in those terms an absolute. It means that within the gradations offered you will not have a good time, but will compare what you have with a perfect freedom that Rupert now does not possess. All of this because of your beliefs about Rupert's body, again, primarily Rupert's beliefs, but yours also. Often I use you to refer to each of you. Within Rupert's present physical situation, there is a degree of freedom for the trip and for enjoyment, an opportunity for manipulation and understanding. This will add to that freedom. You are each concentrating on negatives when you ignore the freedom that does exist and denying yourselves pleasures that could help enlarge that freedom. This does not apply to the trip alone. Give us a moment. If you both understood all I have said about the point of power, you would not compare the present physical situation with what is desired and set the present situation in an unfavorable light, but as a progressive series of stepping stones toward the desired state. You have many of the beliefs of your culture, though you have broken apart from many. You still allow your imagination to follow your negative beliefs. Thus, you, Ram noted, me, they said, are often unable to encourage Ruber actively, as he is often unable to encourage himself. The body is responding despite this. However, the improvements can and will accelerate as you really believe that they can, and as you actively explore the freedoms that are now available. A note about the curb incident Ruber mentioned, Ram noted the other day while shopping at Central Town. They said it was precisely because each of you are still so hypnotized by effects that such incidents are charged to each of you. You're worrying about Ruber 85% of the time does him no good and you less. You can see this quite clearly when Ruber displays his side of the same picture, concentrating on symptoms. A third of that energy on either of your parts spent on the realization that the effects are caused by beliefs, and an effort to change the beliefs, will work wonders. Ruber did this with the shoe episode, and with the arm to an important degree. You cannot encourage him, saying, I know you can do it, honey. Don't worry about it. You'll do better next time, when you are quite firmly convinced of the opposite. Now, the working mode clearly shows Ruber's beliefs and yours. The inner conditions are being righted, but Ruber must see himself in his mind working better, not perfectly, but better for now, and he has begun in point of power to learn how to do that. Your imaginations and emotions must be utilized constructively and not to prolong the effects. Now take your break. In other words, you have each been to a large extent concentrating upon the problem you want to be rid of, so that you see your entire existence only in that light, and you should each know better. As far as your trip is concerned, concentrate upon the pleasures that are possible within it, so that neither of you manage to overstrain yourselves and forget the condition for 1 minute. I should not need to tell you this. See yourselves enjoying yourselves, having a good time, even within the horrendous conditions as they exist. You should each be ashamed of yourselves for ignoring the abilities, the freedoms, and the pleasures that you have, and instead concentrating on the one area in which lacks are apparent, while at the same time not utilizing the methods I have given you to fully help yourselves in that area, and instead focusing your imagination to continue the situation. In such a situation, all enthusiasm becomes taboo, unrealistic, and only fear is realistic or logical. You allow yourself little freedom in which to operate by ignoring, belittling, and denying the freedoms that are available. Give us a moment. In such circumstances, you do not encourage each other, but each add to the problem. There is no reason why such a journey cannot be enjoyable, creative, healing, and bring you each great pleasure. If you each structure that experience ahead of time, however, and see it focused entirely on and through negative beliefs, then it simply becomes another hassle. Ruber's body can perform far better, and is in the process of so doing. You would each do it a great service if you would simply leave it alone, stop negative projections upon it. If you want to help a loved one or yourself, for worrying is the prolongation of fearful negative thoughts directed against another. Now, it does no good to say that the other person should have more sense than to be affected, for usually the other person has their problem because of the same kind of reaction. This applies not only to you too, but in many family situations. Here imagination is negatively applied, turned around however, with even a quarter of that energy used in the opposite direction. You can have a very helpful secondary support for the person in difficulty. You can tell yourself even that the person might after all take the opposite course than the one that they are imagining, and for a moment reverse the direction of your imagination. Done correctly, this will automatically begin to relieve you of the pressures of responsibility felt earlier, and telepathically the other person will pick up feelings of support. Now, earlier, Rupert's beliefs behind body beliefs causing the difficulty affected him in such a way that he picked up from others those moods and feelings that agreed with him. So often constructed body messages could not get through. Now, however, you are left with body beliefs that no longer have a foundation in other personal beliefs, so they will succeed much more quickly in the face of encouragement, enthusiasm, and the projects that are otherwise personal desired. These can be used, therefore, to activate the body now far better than before. The means and methods should not be stressed, however, for these will automatically follow. That is, in whatever way you can, see yourself having a productive, enjoyable, creative journey. Rupert should not wonder, for example, how he is going to manage in the morning, but overall see himself as enjoying himself, and the rest will follow. You do not need to imagine him arising with your flexibility, nor should he at this point. But you should each expect continued improvement and gradations of ever-growing freedom of mobility. Above all, you are from this point to stop structuring your lives upon the bedrock reality of Rupert's condition. For that condition is not a permanent thing, but a changing reality, an improving condition. You said earlier yourself that you probably hardly realized how your own viewpoint has altered. You said it passively. That viewpoint should be considered as part of the past. You can no longer use it as an excuse any more than Rupert can use his symptoms as an excuse anymore. You found your reality. If you want to sit back and say, my worry prevents me from enjoyment, creativity, and fulfillment, then do so. It would be better if you said that entire sentence and then put it in the past and added, I shall no longer do so. Then you will be free to release your own energy for yourself and to actively and joyfully encourage Rupert to do the same. There are many things, including this trip, that you both can actively enjoy, but not while you are insisting upon absolute freedom, while you at the same time concentrating upon those elements in your experience that seem to keep you from it. Then your main concentration is not upon freedom at all, but upon the lack of it, so that the freedoms that are available, even physically to Rupert in his condition now, become minimized, and both of you suffer. Now you are getting a sensation that many would give their ITs for, so use it. Give me a moment. Rupert, to some extent, has also concentrated upon the condition again in an effort to get rid of it. You have done the same thing. In that light, your other separate and joint accomplishments seem almost to vanish. Concentrate upon your love for each other, Concentrate upon your abilities and on the methods you have now available that, used, will automatically dissolve the problem. Do not hit yourself over the head because of this session, wondering how you could be so stupid. For example, you know little, regardless of the male, about the personal situation of others and the emotional climate in which they live. You do not realize often the extent of your own triumphs or the models that you are for others, or the light that you are to them. Therefore, your accomplishments are considerable and will be greater. These challenges were chosen, and you are in the process of triumphing over them. If I am forceful this evening, it is only because I want you to understand exactly in what areas work is needed. The results are, I tell you now, assured, as given in our late sessions, which means, of course, that your understanding of this session has already been taken for granted. So I bid you then a fond good evening, knowing already from my viewpoint that it was followed long ago in your time. Some night later, when this is over, I will give you some important information that will catch up with you, so to speak. So do not be downhearted. See yourselves in a future in which this session has long ago been given and followed with excellent results. Ralph said thank you, said good night. Ralph noted Jane said that the information Seth had for us concerned Atlantis. She was quite surprised, since Atlantis is a subject sort of suspect to her because of the advocacy connotations, etc.